Hi everyone. For this week's reflection, I chose sensory bottles. So here's a picture for those of you who may not know what they are. I don't want to say that it's my favorite to use as an alternate focus because I'm not yet a child life specialist and most of my volunteer experiences have just been in the activity center or walking the dogs around. So I haven't had too much exposure to a child life specialist having to work with a child directly other than in the safe space. But these are things that I see all around the play center in the rooms, and so that's why I chose it. One, because I'm exposed to them a lot in the hospital I volunteer at, and also because I wanted to educate myself a little bit more on what their purpose was. And while I did that, I actually noticed that this was stuff that I also had as a child just in my regular doctor's appointments. Some of you who are in the same age group as me, you might remember if you went to the dentist office and you got a routine cleaning, you would have to press the button so the little the little circles would fly over the tubes and eventually land on them. So I think it's a very similar concept. This is a little bit more modern. I like these sensory bottles because, one, they're super easy to make. I mean, you can choose essentially any bottle that you can fit things in. Or even funnel things in if you choose sand or something like rice that's a lot smaller. And there's just so many options. There's so many things that you can make. You can make them themed, you can personalize them, you can choose colors. That's something I'll talk about in a second. But I think that the developmental age that this is the most appropriate for would be toddlers through early school-age children, even adults. I mean, this is something that I even play with in the activity center while I volunteer. So I think that it's something that can work for a lot of ages, but developmentally, specifically toddler through school-age children. I also think that this could work for both a sensitizer and an avoider. That's something I'll talk about in a second as well. So I think that these sensory bottles really support coping in many ways. One of the ways being that it encourages the child to use their imagination. A lot of times you can even ask a child, what does this remind you of? And it can encourage storytelling. So similar to a child life specialist using a doll to gauge the child's fears or stresses or anxieties, you can maybe even do that by using these and encouraging them to storytell what this reminds them of or if they've seen it before, etc., etc. It also promotes wonder and discovery. So while it calms and shifts their attention during a stressful or after a stressful or overwhelming procedure, physically or emotionally, they're able to use their senses to explore what they know or what they see. So you can ask the child what they see or feel. I know sometimes you can make these into sensory bags, so they're more likely to feel what's inside or see something or not see something if it's a see-through box or not. And maybe even hear or smell. I know that that's something we talked about early on this semester we read an article that talked about essential oils and bubbles. So I think that would also be helpful here too, is using essential oils or maybe scented baby oil. So again, this is beneficial to their developing brain as well, getting them to get a better understanding of their senses as well. There are so many different things, like I said earlier, that you can do with this. You can use glitter, beads, alphabet, numbers, oil, sand, pasta, rice. The possibilities are endless. And what's great too is that you can even make themes. So I found an ocean theme. You can even put figurines in there, which is really cool. I know mermaids are a huge thing now, so you can even make a mermaid tail one, or you can make one for seasons. You can make themes for movies. I mean, similar to winter, you can make a Frozen one, or ocean, you can make a Moana one, or et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this. And like I mentioned earlier, you can even make them scented, so that's really cool. Here's just some more pictures of options. And what I think is great too about this is that, similar to the bubbles, this can help a child also regulate their breathing. They can watch the contents swirl and eventually come back down at the bottom. So very similar to the situation that they're in. It could be a little chaotic, but ultimately it calms down. So it's relatable. The bottle will eventually clear up, and so will your mind. I think that that's great. Also, similar to an I Spy bottle or an I Spy game, you can encourage the child to maybe ask what they see inside and count. Well, how many marbles do you think are in there? I just did that at a baby shower, actually. How many M&Ms do you think are in this jar? So it pours over even to adulthood. I think that the repetition is really important too, that they can shake it as much as they want, and ultimately it calms down, like I mentioned earlier. I'm just repeating myself now. And earlier I also brought up sensitizers and avoiders. I think that this could be great for both. So with an avoider, it helps a child completely shift their focus to what's right in front of them rather than what's happening. And also for sensitizers, they have the option of going back and forth with seeing what's going on around them and then also what's in front of them. So they have the option of going back and forth if they choose to. So I wish that I was able to make one, but I don't have a lot of arts and crafts stuff with me at work or at home. So hopefully the pictures suffice, and I'll use them a lot when I become a child life specialist. Thanks.